honor, respect, and gratitude. Welcome, everyone, to our High Frequency Living Quantum Light Property Clearing Chronicles tonight. Welcome to Tarvars of the Sun.
Lakesh and Veritas, everyone. Diane, good evening.
It's going to be a wonderful night. We've got a lot of things to cover. So I am Diane of the Sun, owner of Lakesh Studio One, a franchise of the Sun. We offer quantum light property clearing services, truth and tea, call for the truth card readings and other services. And you can check things out at inlakeshstudio1.com. And you can check us out on Instagram at inlakeshstudio1. And a few announcements before we get started. We have our high frequency living live streams, which focus on high frequency living lifestyle topics and of the sun classes and modalities. And this is every week. On Mondays at 6 p.m. Eastern is Flowers and Frequency with Lauren of the Sun. Wednesdays at noon Eastern is Midday Meditation with myself. Thursdays at noon Eastern is Lota and Tarvars of the Sun with their Call for the Truth live stream. And Fridays is a rotating schedule. So tonight is the Quantum Light Property Clearing Chronicles. And we also have a book club, Lakesh Studio One's Evolutionary Book Club, which will be in 2 weeks, the first Friday of August 7th, I believe. And we will be discussing The Subconscious Speaks. So hope you can join us. It's a short book, but it's jam-packed with lots of information from the perspective of the subconscious. So hope you can see us then. And there are a couple upcoming August classes with Of the Sun, Sun Calibration, taught by Lota of the Sun, and Energy Hygiene 101, taught by Tarvars of the Sun. So the link for those classes are in the description. So that wraps up our announcements. I invite you to join me in calling for the highest possible vibration. Shall we call for the highest possible vibration? Shall we call for the highest possible vibration? Shall we call for the highest possible vibration? Shall we call for the truth? Shall we call to see the truth in all things? Shall we call to hear the truth in all that we hear? Shall we have the courage to speak the truth? And shall we accept nothing less than the truth in all of our experiences? All righty. Okay, so welcome again to ours. And I know it's going to be a wonderful evening of discussion about quantum light property clearing. And our topic, if you'd like to start, would be awesome. Thank you.
Yes, most certainly. So this evening is just the two of us. We can make it. We're not going to try, we're going to do.
We're going to do it.
You know, the lyrics say we can make it if we try. No, we're going to do it. We're going to have a good time. So today, everyone, we're talking about the value of quantum light property clearing, and we're also going to extend this to clearing in general. And we're going to cover a variety of different concepts like being of service, also resistance to clearing, and what that looks like with property clearing and just energy hygiene in general. So no matter what level you are at in engagement with energy hygiene, whether it's just clearing for yourself, your energy field, your biofield, your light body, or you're over here removing interference patterns now locally, we're going to be touching on it because it's universal. And possibly, you know, some tidbits, just kind of depending on where we go with the conversation, the idea of congruency and how that ties into clearing, and how our congruency or our capacity to sustain our clearing within ourselves, it translates into not having to clear as much. Now, clearing is inevitable, but you know, when you're clearing congruent, that congruency broadcast is where you become the clearing. So that's a whole nother layer that we'll possibly get into. So with that being said, welcome everyone. And I want to lay down a little foundation for finding the value. So, where's the real value in quantum light property clearing? And so I think that it starts with understanding what it is, what what we exist within in terms of the field. So let's lay a little foundation. Quantum light property clearing is a modality that is taught to effectively remove energetic interferences from spaces and places non-locally. We're not looking to go to a house with a broom and a dustpan. We're not showing up with sage and Palo Santo. We love those, but those are more so energetic support products. This modality is utilized to identify specific levels of interferences. Uh, Case in point, we are identifying what is the toxicity level of the space that we're about to clear on a scale from 0 to 100. That's context that you can't quite find when you just show up. All right, I'm just going to fill the space and light. The spirit is telling me to light my sage over here and there. No, because you don't even know what you're really clearing. You don't even know what you're really getting into. But this modality, we are calibrating what's the toxic load of this environment. And you're probably wondering, how do you do that? How do you find out what's the toxic load? Well, a lot of the classes that lead up to this modality teaches you how to do such a thing. So one of them is sun calibration, which Lao Tzu is actually teaching this in the month of August, which the the idea of calibration extends even beyond property clearing. This is something that you can use in your daily life to calibrate, engage. Is it in my best and highest interest to eat this food, drink this, date this person, do this business bill, buy this vehicle? I'm in the mode of buying a new vehicle, and I'm checking, and I'm like, "Ooh, guys, is it in my best?" And they're like, "No, don't get a truck again. Get an SUV." I'm like, "Okay, okay." So we're using calibration, speaking with the intelligence of the body, to identify yes and no framed through questions. Now, this catapults when you take quantum light property clearing into speaking with a spiritual committee that can assist you with seeing beyond the intelligence of the body. It's almost like you're connecting with a larger server or network, right? Because the body can see in advance. The body can see a couple of days in advance. The body can see what's going to happen if you go around the corner. But working with your greater intelligence, which is like source, prime creator, the archangel realm, different master teachers, and other allies of the sun, you end up seeing much further beyond, in terms of what's happening in the field and the potentialities. So this is what we're working with to identify and calibrate toxicity. So we're not working alone when we do these processes. A human is required to do it, but we have assistance. And why shouldn't we in a world or universe where there's so many different beings? So anywho, we start off by identifying what is the toxic load, because we're dealing with a field and environment that has had a history before the individuals who moved into it even decided to move in there. And so
Mm.
the value comes forth from understanding that we are living in fields that are influencing the trajectory of our growth and our evolution. And in many cases, it pulls us into a lot of the patterns that we're looking to break out of, and can perpetuate self-sabotage. You know, you might be looking to stay in your happy place, but the old depression that's broadcasted in the field is still broadcasting, and you're trying to fight the pull and the gravity of the environment where you had long-standing depression for weeks on end, months on end, and like it has a buildup, right? So this is the context of the fields that we live in. And it's not that there aren't positive experiences, but the reality is that humanity in our current stage, we are having a lot more, we're doing a lot more dancing with negative than positive, you know, unless we're actively on the path. So with that being said, laying a bit of the foundation of what we exist in terms of fields of memory broadcasting, where the real value is what becomes possible after the interference is cleared. It's not so much what's there, it's like what happens, what becomes the new experience after we remove all the the thick layers of dirt that have been distorting and dampening the light. So there's a lot that can be expressed. But before I even go into that, because that's really the opening question, like what's the greatest value once we start removing those interferences? What becomes possible in your household, in at your work, in your place of business, right? Where whatever environment that you're looking to clear, even if it's a community, because this extends beyond just houses. We teach people clear your communities, clear your neighborhood, and how that can reveal a new experience. So before I go any deeper, Diane, how's this landing for you? What are your thoughts on this?
This is wonderful. Thank you for bringing all these things forward. I hadn't actually looked at that before about what is possible after it's cleared. I was pretty much focused as a clearer. I pretty much focused on, oh, I found this and it's cleared now. And I like that perspective of looking forward so that somebody can say, oh, now I don't have to deal with that anymore. Thank you for bringing that forward. And now it's gone. And because I can feel that about the example you mentioned about like depression years ago when I was in that cycle, before property clearing, before I knew anything about that, I could see how it was hard to get out. And once things got cleared, then it made it possible. So I like
Yeah,
that idea. Yeah, that's really helpful. And yes, it is so good to be able to figure out what those toxic loads are so that it's always good to be aware of what it is because then you can once you're aware, you can name it, you can clear it, and it's gone. Unless we decide to bring it back, that's that's a whole different story.
yeah, it
But
is, but
what's
it's part of it.
Yeah, but what's possible is that now you don't have to bring it back. Think that new thought, think those new ideas. What are you looking to do now without that? Because I know a lot of times we focus on the negative, and it's like, let's look at the positive. What is the best possible outcome? After this clearing, I am going to be on this new path. I'm going to be doing something new. And I really like that, so thank you, thank you.
Yeah, Diane, you're touching all the points. This I'm looking to inspire people
Mhm.
to see what's possible, right? And it's important that we do that in our own individual experience, not just from property cleaning, but like how good can it get? Like where can I go from here, right? And again, from property clearing, this helps reveal that. So you're again touching on so many little pinpoints. I like when you were saying you were just recapping, being able to identify what was there, and then we can see like what needs to change, like what is it that we're removing, and then identifying, okay, this is the new frequency that we need to offset this type of behavior. So for example, sometimes we have people who have let's say there's I'm thinking solar plexus. I want to pull something out solar plexus, like, because often people are dealing with that. Um Self punishment, levels of doubt, right? Like, let's say that that's broadcasting strongly in the field. You were maybe raised in a household, or there's an environment where the people in your space, they doubt you, you doubt yourself. You see that this is not where you want to be, and you need more courage. And so removing these frequencies of doubt and the impressions that's in the furniture, the bedding, the walls, right? Because that's what's happening. It's like the energy goes into the material and then it broadcasts back to us, which makes it so challenging for us to pop into a new pattern because the field has such a strong influence. And so identifying what's there, which funny enough, we can do this without even talking to the person. We don't need to know their narrative. That's one of the things that I love about property clearing. This is the value. Like, you don't got to tell me. Let me tell you what I see. Matter of fact, I'm going to tell you what I see in the property, and what I see within the property is going to tell me about you. How about that? Matter of fact, I'm going to tell you exactly which chakras these interferences are playing out through all the occupants at varying levels and degrees. This is the value that you gain from property clearing. But again, on the flip side, one of the things that we've been doing is we insert beneficial frequencies that will offset. So, for example, doubt, we will imprint frequencies of courage into the environment, and then speak on like, hey, like you might want to call for some frequencies of courage. You might want to use a frequency water, or or affirm this within your reality. Where, so again, it's not just what's clear, it's like what's possible afterwards. And oftentimes, because the layers are removed, the person no longer has that weight of the doubt and the other types of interferences that are, I'm going to call it an attack in some shape or form, even though it's self imposed, because the person is the space is the person. But it is an attack against the trajectory of evolution via anti life. You got anything on this, Diane?
I what was coming forward when you were saying this about, um, removing doubt and replacing with courage, and, you know, the person needs to take responsibility for that moving forward and use the frequency water or the affirmations, or if they really truly want to move forward, they have to be responsible and say, "Thank you for clearing this. I'm grateful that doubt is gone now. And I am taking responsibility for myself. And I am going to really focus on what is going to be good for me, which is courage, and really reinforce that courage. Now that I'm not being pulled back with doubt, I have that opportunity."
Well, certainly.
And I think that's something important too, that we all need to understand, that as we get things cleared by ourselves or someone else, it is our responsibility to keep it that way, to keep it clean. And that's where your energy hygiene comes in, your classes that assist with that, to keep ourselves clear so that we can keep our spaces clear too.
I most certainly agree with you. It's so imperative. So again, we're speaking on value. The value with quantum light prophet clearing is you have a professional stepping in on your behalf to take care of the heavy weight. That's the reality. And in life, it requires that. We go to see a mechanic for maintenance. You know how to change your oil yourself? You know how to change a carburetor, right? Like, we go see someone. Matter of fact, I learned how to change an alternator on YouTube. I was successful, but mm, it didn't last long after that. I started having hiccups shortly after. I was like, ah, man, maybe I should have went and go see a professional. So that's the reality. But then once you go get that oil change, you see the mechanic, or maybe you go see a dentist, whatever. They tell you keep brushing, right? Change your oil, do little maintenance, and this is where the responsibility that you're talking about comes into play. And it's so important for people to see the value in that, the value in like, okay. And by the way, I just had a consult with a client. There's several stories that are spinning around right now in the air, and I'll share them along the way. But this first one is one of the clients. She lives with family, and she's been dealing with this circumstance of, she sees the necessity for bringing order and structure into the environment, and the family members, they lack that. But what's funny is that she's the one who's supposed to lead because she's the one who sees the issue, right? That's always the case. And so what happened was, and this is one of the, again, value with quantum light property clearing is, once they're on our calendar, the clearing already begins. The process. So I cleared it earlier that morning. We had the consult later in the day, but she shared with me that she had already began to see shifts within the environment days prior. And this is really the receptivity of her family members to the changes and shifts in her behavior of bringing structure and order. And when I say structure and order, I mean like, hey, like, let's make sure there are no dishes in the sink at night. Let's make sure that we don't leave food out. Let's make sure that, you know, items are placed back where they belong, because all of this matters. When the physical area is out of order, it influences our mind, our emotions. It creates like weird type of interference that, unless we address it, it'll continue to broadcast in the background. So I digress. But the point is that this client began to see things already shift before we even initiated the clearing. However, moving forward, you know, she could see how this the idea of the clearing was supporting not just her, but it was supporting everyone in the house. And that was part of the reason she was deciding between, do I get a soul clearing for myself or do I get a property clearing? And she's like, I know I need a soul clearing, but I'm living with other people. And like, there's this synergy here, and I want the best for all of us, and I need some assistance. And so what happened, or what unfolded beyond that, was just the conversation about the report alone gave her what she needed, because she's already in the process of doing clearings on herself, practicing levels of energy hygiene. So again, this is something like, if you're in the pocket and you see the value of, I want to keep myself clear and pristine, clearing your property and matching that, it will launch you. Because what happens after the clearing is it makes space for frequencies and experiences that result in peace, that result in clarity. uh, Creativity opens up, connectivity within the relationships of the people in the space, productivity, literally coherence begins to become available within the space. But that can't happen, it won't happen if there's congestion and interference, because it does not support it. So again, tying it all in terms of, just like what you said, when you're pursuing an energy hygiene lifestyle, you have to match the work. But if you are about that, this work will launch you. It will launch you and catapult you into a higher experience, which this client was already experiencing before we even went in and initiated, just the commitment alone. And so I'm looking forward to more responses, but this is something that typically happens. Um, Before I jump into another idea, because I have some other things I wanted to talk about, what are your thoughts on this, Diane?
I like the idea that you brought forward with the client who has, when other people are in the house, it's there, the person took responsibility for herself, but she knew that the other people needed a little assistance too, and it worked for them. It worked for everyone. Even though maybe I'm sure she spoke to them that they were aware of it. Um, but maybe not. Maybe
If
they
I
just
may,
happened. Yeah,
so she spoke to them, but then it got to the point where she realized, I can't keep talking to them. I just must do. I must be the change. I must set the tone for what I want to experience. So she stopped trying to control them. And again, the momentum of the clearing is supporting her in that, right? Like, detach, just move forward, do what's necessary. And then fast forward, because this was something that was cool. She says, days later, or I think it was like a day or two later, they came home and started cleaning up without her having to say anything. So the energy in the field is already influencing everyone, and
everyone.
it's a matter of time. It's a matter of
Mhm.
time, right? And this is what I mean by, like, when you clear properties, a new state of being or a new trajectory becomes more than just potentiality. It opens up for everyone to step through. Now, there's still free will, but if we think about what's happening with the souls that occupy these spaces, we're not only dealing with our own interference, we're dealing with the reinforcement of the field, where even if we wanted to change, it would pull us back in. So this helps offset that. So yes, she was talking to them, and then she decided not to talk to them.
That's pretty cool. Thank you for sharing that example.
So what you were saying, it kind of ties into like being of service. And it's kind of multifaceted, because when we think about, even just using this example with the client, like, she saw clearing the space was a level of service, not just to herself, but to her family who lived with her. It would help her help them help her. it's it's cyclical, right? I was thinking I was thinking about this on, I was driving heading back home before the live stream, thinking about the circle of life. And we grew up the circle of life, and I'm like, it's more of a sphere, though. It depends on the perspective of dimensionality that you're looking at. I'm like, okay, yes, it moves like this, but it's also like this. right? Like spherical in spirals. And when we think about clearing, it is essentially in support of the natural flow of life itself, right? Like when we think about, for example, water cycle, same water that's been here, it goes through a process of renewal, restoration, right? Like it runs over rocks, rivers, etc. And then uh, the water raises up. I forgot the terminology, but then it precipitates back down. So it's an actual cycle where it's not like off-world beings are dumping water here, new water. It's the same water that's just going through a renewal process and restructuring at the molecular level. And so property clearing is much like that, where allowing the trapped energies in the space to cycle up out of there for new energies to be invited is very much akin to life. We're in the root chakra right now with light body, and Father Tree shared with us, you got to drop some of those dead leaves, you all. Don't be holding on to those dead leaves. If you do, it's going to contaminate. It's going to cycle through, because everything does. It's going to contaminate the larger tree. And so shed them, let them go through their natural process of decomposition so that you can grow and continue to invite new life. Because everything's going through that process, but like, what are we cycling through? I mean, we can think about this in so many ways. I'm even thinking about the biology. When we're really the idea of toxins, if we don't release toxins and we have them flowing through the lymph, if our elimination pathways are congested, because that's what it looks like in a property. When energy is trapped, it's not flowing out. We got the same stagnant anger, sadness, depression that's stuck in the space. It's very much like the biology with like lymph congestion, or maybe your liver's not functioning properly for elimination, your kidneys and whatnot, right? Or even issues with the colon. Like once we get the energies moving, those toxins can move out. But if not, the toxins will just cycle through and reinform the entire biology. And it's the same thing with our spaces and places. So I say that to say that property clearing mirrors the mechanics of the universe. Property clearing mirrors the mechanics of our biology, nature itself, uh, the planet Earth, the electromagnetic field, all of that. It allows us to tap back into truth. And so when we understand what this does, we understand, again, the value is, if I clear my space, I can keep everything flowing. I I I can lessen stagnation, and I can experience, for example, burst of creativity. I can experience newfound connect levels of connectivity with the same people who I've been in the house with, where that even that doesn't remain stagnant, right? So it works itself in a myriad of different ways because it's multidimensional. Um, before I go on, any of this landing for you, Diane? Any of this bringing up anything in your mind?
Yes, I like when you brought up the restructuring the energy to invite new life and how it reflects our body systems as well. Thinking about, because everything is very similar. We're all energy. There's energy in everything. And so if we are congested, our space is congested, clearing our space will help clear us as well.
Oh gosh,
And we can
yes.
move on. I love that it does open up more possibilities for us to move forward, and more creative ideas, new thinking. So, thank you.
Most certainly. And by the way, this for anybody who's listening, and maybe you're not a property clearer, and you're like, "This sounds cool," but like, I don't know how to do that. So these principles are micro, macro. They scale down even to the experience of someone who has chosen to adopt an energy hygiene lifestyle. So maybe you're practicing Ho'oponopono. Maybe you're calling for the highest possible vibration. Maybe you're sending yourself in Lakesh and Veritas, oneness and truth, right? And the process of clearing in just your field, because your field works like this too. and it releases the stagnation. It allows everything to flow, So these principles, they're micro, macro. As I mentioned, it's the function of our universe. Property clearing is working within the mechanics. This is why it's so effective. And when we understand who and what we are, it gives us more influence, so to say, not only over our individual field, but also over the fields and the environments that we live in. So I kind of want to pivot to being of service, because you touched on it, and we kind of touched on it with the story with the client, how she clearing her space with her family is a service to them as well, whether they know it or not. And this is beyond any type of control and manipulation. This is more of, look, I am going to clean. Oh my God, it's so square, because even the action of her deciding, I'm going to clean up the home, whether you all do it or not, and it's still going to benefit you. You see the dimensional levels of her adhering to cleanliness, whether it's just the action physically, her doing her practices, or the support that she had with the property clearing. So when we clear, oh my gosh, this is service to not only self, but this is service to the greater self, the whole. When you clear, you make everything great. It's almost like, it's like you get to share like the greatest version of yourself with another person when you're clearer. You encounter people who are congested, got a chip on their shoulder. They're not the highest expression. The lights eclipse. But when you clear, you're removing that eclipse. You're able to be bright. You're able to be a brighter or greater, truer expression of who and what you are, what you were designed as. And so property clearing does that for spaces, which in turn does that for the occupants. And then if we want to scale this up, which we love to scale it up, because it shows just how far the reach of property clearing is. We start doing this for our neighborhoods. In the class for quantum light property clearing, we teach our students to clear as homework and to build muscle, because it is a muscle that's required. Start clearing your neighborhood. Clear the home across the street. Clear the home left, right, behind. You know, get all quadrants, cardinal directions. Right. Fortify your neighborhood, because in the modality and the teachings of the Sun, when we say oneness and truth, we mean oneness and truth. When we say in Lakesh, it's you are everything. Sometimes it takes people a little time to fully internalize it, but the reality is that you are your neighbors, you are your neighborhood. And then when you start realizing it's like, oh, I am all of this, I gotta clear all of me. I gotta make sure all of me is good. So, it's like a level of spiritual maturity that we end up stepping into because of this, that built into that maturity and that realization, you just want to clear everything around you. So this service extends to all of life, and it's not just the people in the homes. We're teaching to clear. When we teach to clear properties, we are clearing vegetation, the soil, the trees, the organisms, the birds, the bees. Maybe you got a garden. I call out my tomatoes, my basil. I'm like, basil, raise it up. All the life forms. We got grasshoppers and spiders. We cool with them. The blueberry tree in the bush. We're in service to life itself, because the deeper reality is that everything's suffering. Everything is suffering, and it's so important for us to understand that that's a reality. And it doesn't have to be that way. And I'm gonna go off on a little tangent. I was having a conversation with someone, and we were talking about Buddhism, and they said, "Yeah, man, like it seems like everything's suffering." I was like, "Yeah, they talk about like life is just suffering." I was like, "You know why they say that? You know why it's like that? It's only that way because we don't listen. We're not listening to the signal of life and our guidance. So we suffer because we're not making choices that are established in truth and established within the reality that we're one with everything. We make choices that are established in a lie and separation. That's why we suffer, right? So we're, as humans, we're existing in fields where this behavior of separation and being in a lie has been broadcasted and reiterated and acted on, habituated over and over and over again. So that's the overlay that we're dealing with, suffering. But it doesn't have to be that way. So back to this idea of releasing the suffering, we're releasing the suffering in the overlay on the material of the home. We're releasing the suffering in the overlay of the living organisms, the nature itself that's part of the property. And so the value, again, we're talking about value here. What's the value? Everything gets lifted. And so when you understand that everything is broadcasting, and you're like, what is the field broadcasting? Is it broadcasting suffering, or is everything like sunshine and rainbows? We're all in our happy place. We're in our joy, because it makes a difference and people can feel it. You don't got to be psychic in the Miss Cleo sense. Like, everybody's psychic. Everybody can feel, and their empaths, etc. But this reality of, we want to influence the field to raise up, because it's all us and it all feeds back in. So again, the service extends beyond. How's this landing for you, Diane? In terms of, because you clear your neighborhood. You're somebody who, you clear not just your block. You and I've heard some stories from you. You've done some things. So how's this landing for you?
This is, yes, I do clear my neighborhood, my zip code. I make sure that whatever is around me is cleared. And by clearing the neighborhood, people I don't even know on the street, people have moved or they've cleaned up. I've seen houses that have had dumpsters and they've cleaned up, they've cleaned their lawn. I mean, people have had things like, there was this was so funny. Down the street, there was a car that had some kind of wording on it that was not appropriate on the license plate holder. And after I had been clearing the space and even that, and after a few months, all of a sudden that was gone. And I'm like, oh, something must have happened to that. But it was because it was anti-life. It was not supporting life.
Yeah.
But people move out, and new people move in, and keep things in a more orderly fashion. But being of service is to help everyone. And the earth, yes, the earth. I'm always clearing the trees and I've got beautiful rose bushes and my plants and things. But also, I've seen people start to grow plants and fruit or vegetables. And I live in an area that's most of my block is on an angle, and so a
Mhm.
lot of people haven't really grown things. But I've noticed down the street that somebody started, and they have a raised bed, and it's fabulous. So it's brought that energy to the neighborhood to help. But being of service, I think being in having quantum light property clearing for me as a clearer has brought so much more information to me to see how things work, and to really notice and be aware of things that need to be cleared. I drive by this one house, and it has cannons on the front lawn. They just put in a few months ago. And I'm like, oh, no, 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 no. We got to clear this. We have to clear this because now we're bringing war energy here,
Yeah.
conflict, and damaging things. I'm always calling for peaceful conflict resolution. We don't have to be sending cannons to someone.
Aimed
The
at your
cows
neighbor's
across
house.
the s
Like,
yeah, the cows across the street is where
it's
it's
so
it's
telling.
it's it's, aimed, and I'm like, "No, no, 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 no." So, I'm I clear that house. But different things that come forward to be of service, to help that, bring forward, I have a couple other examples. Someone I was talking to one day, she was working somewhere, and she was having some issues, and she was maybe going to be she said, "Oh, I really want to help." And she was working for it was a teen like rescue place for trafficked teens that they had rescued. And she said, "But it's just there's something going on here." So when I looked into it, it was a former jail. And of course, it had the jail energy.
Mm,
And so I was able to clear that and help to be of service to help those teenagers have an atmosphere where they could move forward and get out of that negative energy that they were in because they were being taken out of a negative energy, but they were being brought to a negative
thank you.
energy.
Yes.
It didn't make any sense. So that part was, I'm very grateful to be able to do that and be of service to help others. And they didn't know I was doing it,
That's right.
and
That's
I'm
okay.
not
You're a
looking.
superhero, you know?
Yeah,
You don't
I
reveal
wasn't
your
looking for
identity
that.
all the time.
Yeah, so I was just trying to help the community, help the area, you know. So those are some of my experiences with service, and I've got many other ones too, but
Hey,
we'll
keep
stop
keep
there.
keep them loaded. Keep them loaded just in case. So, Dan, this is so inspiring, and it speaks directly to what we're talking about. Uh, I didn't know you were going to pull out that example. I'm familiar with the story, but that one was much bigger than what was happening in the neighborhood, which I want to speak on both. So, here we have again for the listeners children who are being helped. They're moved out of a negative experience and placed back into a negative environment, seemingly supportive, but the underlay of the broadcast is jail. Anybody ever been to jail? You ever see any like TV shows? So you're like, I'm never going there. Like that type of energy. Imagine that's what they were going up against, and this is exactly what it's like when we move to a new place and we don't really know what happened prior, but all of that is there. And the truth is that unless you remove it, unless you come in with a greater level of power to offset that, it is likely still there broadcasting. That's the reality, and this I have seen this time and time and time again. And sage is not enough to remove jail energy. I don't care how much sage. I don't know if you ever seen one of those memes where like there's people at a protest and they're like, "There's not enough sage for this. Like, I don't have enough sage." I'm like, "You're right. You don't because you need more than sage. You need like power and light to combust that dark energy and to be specific." So I digress. I'm a little turned up, but this is it's just your experience really paints the necessity of clearing spaces because again we have a circumstance of people looking to be of service but the background is moving them in the opposite direction, so yes, you have your cape on, I see it billowing in the wind, superhero Diane. But then again, the neighborhood, I really like what was happening in the neighborhood because here we have it was speaking to what I was saying earlier. What becomes available after the distortion is removed? You got people growing food in the neighborhood. You got people actually moving things and throwing things out that have been sitting for a long time. In the background, you're helping humanity move along instead of just being stuck and not moving, which goes against life. Life is supposed to be, and they just keep trying to inhale or exhale, and it's like you can't do that forever. It's like you're gonna suffer if you just stay in the same space forever. And so literally you helped the neighborhood move forward. It's so beautiful. And this is again the greater service. And there's so many people who are like, I want to help humanity. I feel like I'm called to doing something greater. Learn property clearing. Clear your neighborhood, help your family members, society move along because that's what's needed. The energy fields that we exist in are strong, and unless we address them, it's going to perpetuate the same type of self-sabotaging behavior that keeps us within the status quo of our experiences. So what's beautiful about this, and I actually want to get your thoughts on this, because somebody might be listening and thinking, "Oh, you just clearing any house? Like, who gave you permission? Look here, where's my badge? Where's our badge? Look, when you're a property clearer, you are an emissary of not only all that is source prime creator, but for the earth herself. We are stewards of the earth. So by our divine sovereign right of being ambassadors of earth herself, we are in our rightful place to clear and clean the earth plane. And there's structures on the earth plane, so that's within our jurisdiction. So we got it like that. I think the only caveat would be is we teach our students to check with your guidance. Don't just be running out clearing, like, because there's nuance, right? There's, like, for example, you want to make sure you're clearing what's within your weight class, because sometimes your muscle hasn't been built up enough to clear certain things. You even mentioned like zip codes. Look, guys, Diane is more than what she appears to be. Not everybody is what they appear to be. I'm telling you this right now. And so Diane lifts heavy weight and can make some things happen. Diane even addresses data centers. This is a thing, and we have evidence of actual change. And this is again why I'm really, we're not stressing, but driving the point of what happens after clearing. What's the value after clearing? Because we have evidence of what happens even with data centers. Like, communities like, oh, look, I guess they're not able to move forward with it because, oh, Diane was doing some stuff, or she was clearing some interferences, so they can't move forward. So these are things that people want to make change on the planet. This is one way that they can do it. I digress. So kind of want to pivot a little bit, Diane, uh, back to this point of the jurisdiction. And like, we we encourage our students to check with your guidance to see if it's even in your best and highest interest to clear such a space, right? And this is something that it assists us with, making sure that you're right and correct. We've had people who may want to, like, like, people see, oh man, I'm gonna clear the White House, or I'm gonna clear such and such. It's like, you don't even know how much magic they got, and it might be out of your weight class. So you ask your guidance of what's in your best and highest interest based upon the energy and the power that you have available, because again, a lot of this is based upon your personal power, which is taking me into another area which is on my list, the idea of congruence, and how what we do, it requires a level of congruence that gives us the power. It's interesting to see how, and I've observed this with many practitioners in different lanes on the path, where people separate themselves from the work that they do. They'll do some Reiki. There's even property clears out there, or people who do shamanic work, and they'll clear somebody, but then their lifestyle may not align with the vibrational integrity that should be upheld even outside of the work that they did. It's almost like treated like a 9 to 5. Okay, I clocked out. It's party time. It's the weekend. I'm going to the club. And there's nothing wrong with dancing. You do your thing, but the idea of, like, look, you're not separate from your work. And so this idea of the congruency gives us power. And when you clear, it helps with strengthening the congruency. Because again, you were given examples of observing what you're doing, how property clearing has helped you become more aware of what's happening. So I can see where in your experience, this awareness of how it's helping you, it's awareness of, like, life itself, how the energy is moving, how people are influenced by the energy, mm, when it needs to happen again to to create better influence. You can kind of see, once you do property clearing, you start seeing the deeper levels of reality. But again, it's the congruence that gives us the power to collapse and address these interferences. You got any thoughts on, like, how congruence has played out for you, Diane, in your experience?
Yes, congruence with also um, at the beginning of when I started property clearing, I don't know that I was always congruent in my thinking. I was a little bit doubtful, like, did I really clear that? Oh, I don't know. So I was being doubtful, which then, of course, didn't clear it, right? And brought it back. And I was like, oh, so that kept me in a cycle until I realized, wait a minute, sit down and this is not me. It's not about me. It's about quantum light property clearing is so strong. It's been cleared, but I kept bringing it back. It
Mm,
wasn't that the clearing wasn't working. The clearing was working, but it was me. That was my resistance and my doubt. And then once I cleared that up and I was congruent, it was like, okay, now, all right, what can I do now?
yeah.
But also asking guidance. It is so important to ask guidance that is it in my best and highest good to clear this? I definitely asked about clearing that jail and that place. But I have asked other places and they say no, they need to go through that situation to move forward. And if I were to clear it, then they wouldn't get that lesson. And so that's been something too. But yes, seeing the effects of the clearing has been so wonderful. Now I haven't talked to this person again who works at that teen rescue center. But I've just seen things in my own experience where I've cleared, um, where, oh, I've cleared that. And it's like, oh, look at what's now happening. And you can see the effects of that. But it's because now I am congruent
Mm.
and I'm confident. I know what I'm clearing is being cleared. And I know that moving forward, I get the right answer. So,
This is so many gems, so many principles embedded in what you were saying. Uh, for the sake of time, I will say that there's so much gain and benefit with checking in with your guidance. This is beyond just clearing properties because we utilize for anybody who's listening and you're like guidance. We refer to them as a spiritual committee because it's a committee. It's more of a round table. And this is actually an understanding that I had to decondition myself with because I grew up in religious programming, Christianity, and in religion and the world at large teaches you to see everything outside of yourself as greater than you, including source or God or whatever you see as a higher power. And so once I was connected to the spiritual committee, part of my incongruence and interference was like saying, like, oh, spiritual committee, please, like you're greater than me, help me. And a lot of us like, stop that. Stop that. And even more so, that's where humanity dropped the ball. At some point in our evolutionary process, once we saw that there were beings, or we adopted the identity and perception that what's outside of me is greater than what's inside of me, that's part of the decline. Like, whatever the narrative was around that, that's up for debate. But at the core, uh, we lost the thread of connectivity, realizing that source was within. And so I digress. And with Lota, she helped me with my deconditioning process to really move into the space where spiritual committee is like, spiritual committee, hey, what's up? What do we do, guys? It's more of like a round table because the reality is that the human is such an important integral aspect of the process. And this is the thing that I often say, look, if angels and higher dimensional beings could have taken care of this hot mess that we find ourselves in, they would have been did it. We wouldn't be here in this moment right now. So the reality is that a human must do it. Same with your own individual circumstances. Like your guides aren't going to do the work for you. You must take the action to do the thing. And so you are so important. You are an integral part of this. And that's the understanding that we teach when you're working with a team because the human conduit is needed to anchor the energies onto the planet. Like you're special, snowflake, right? So, anywho, I digress. Working with the spiritual committee or your guidance, it's even outside of property clearing. And that's another area of where the value is, where this is a lifestyle, right, Diane? It's not just limited to I clear. This is why I gave the example of we're not separate from the clearing. Like, I got so many things I want to share. I didn't know I was going to be loaded this much, Diane, tonight. Like with just the two of us. I'm like, I got ammunition everywhere. Anywho, so again, would you share some of your thoughts or your experience of working with your guidance, even outside of property clearing?
Yes, working with guidance using the sun calibration process has really been helpful for many things outside of property clearing. I think you mentioned at the beginning about our food, asking about food. I use my guidance always for that. Is it in my best and highest interest to go to the store today or to this place, or shall I go here? Shall I even go out at all today? Um, is it in my best and highest interest to do this project today? Is it, right now? Or um, I'm using my guidance always, always, always because it really is helpful. And if I do not, um, sometimes it does cause some suffering about
Yeah.
you should have asked. We could have told you, "No, don't do that right now." And
Hmm.
getting a no doesn't mean no forever. It might mean not right now. Maybe later you can go out. Maybe you should go out later. Um, it might be to your benefit. You might have a better experience. When I always ask about, is it in my best and highest interest to go somewhere? And I get a yes, I know that it will be a wonderful experience. And as I'm going through that, I'm always asking, is this where I'm supposed to be? Because sometimes things can change and shift and
Hmm.
it's like, "Oh, maybe go here first or go there first. Don't go there first. Go here." you know. And so yes, the guidance is so helpful, and that's with the also about calibrating, about asking my body yes and no answers. And of course, I do that before I get in the car, um, but that really is helpful.
Yeah.
But it is helpful during property clearing, but there's so many other applications, and I know you teach a lot of that in the Energy Hygiene 101 and the Energetic Defense and Protection class too, which is very helpful to keep those things in mind because that's something we all need to do always.
I agree. Let's I got one more idea I'd like us to cover before we close out, which is resistance. Originally, it was resistance to clearing, but I'd like to touch a little bit about resistance to listening to our guidance. Because maybe someone's listening saying, like, man, she talks to her guidance that frequent, that much to do XYZ. You better believe it because look, we are over here operate humans are operating like three blind mice out here trying to build a civilization and it's failing horribly because we're not tuned into the signal. Before I even move any further, we got a comment from Abernathy. This is Shade, Inlakesh Shade. She says, Inlakesh, thank you both. This information helps. And I think Shade is a clearer, and the idea of like Shade applying this information in her life in more ways than one, or any clear for that matter. And that's part of the purpose of Quantum Light Property Clearing Chronicles, where you can see the lifestyle beyond what we have time to teach in class, and we can continue with this type of ongoing dialogue. Back to so thank you, Shade, for your comment. We also got a desire of Wilkes, I think. Folks, Desire Folks, 46 49 gives a salute, 3 flames. I think that was well at the top of the live stream. We see you, we feel you, and everybody who's been sticking out with us, and anybody in the future who listens to this transmission, give us a like and let us know what your thoughts are and the value that you found from this dialogue. And so resistance, right? It's such a thing, I make jokes about how we're like adolescents who we're going through puberty and growing up, the elders would say, "Oh, you smelling yourself," meaning like, "Oh, you think your pheromones are are kicking now and your hormones and you're feeling yourself." And we are very much so like that as humans when it comes to making choices, but it's often choices that are leading us into more suffering. And it's I have seen in my own experience the necessity to move into states of humility, to realize I don't know everything. I know some things, but I don't know everything. And as a matter of fact, uh, realizing the condition that I'm in, that we as humans are in. And mind you, I'm in a space now where I can hear my guidance. I can hear them say what to do, what not to do. And I mentioned somewhere in this live stream that I'm working directly with my guidance with getting a new vehicle, like every step of the process. And as a matter of fact, uh, got a timeshare, and I'm over here thinking about traveling. And I looked at the list of different countries to go to, and I bust out laughing. I'm like, I'm not just gonna randomly pick a spot. I'm gonna ask my guidance first. Is it even in my best and highest interest to travel? Like, because they can see so much further beyond. But it's like this weird thing that we have with like accepting and opening up to guidance. And one, I think it's somewhat of our sense of wanting to be in control. And this, it feels weird to relinquish control, but it's not even relinquishing, it's you. This is my understanding. My current understanding is that working with our guidance is working with another aspect of ourselves that can see further down the timeline and trajectory. Why would you not want to consult with that part of yourself who can see further than the limitation within the density of the fields that we're in? Somebody in the chat, let me know. Like, why would you not want to do that? Like, who's gonna die on that hill, so to say, or defend that stand? So, our me and Diane, our lives have shown us the value in checking in with our guidance because we've experienced so much suffering outside of that. And then you get enough contrast to see, oh, when I listen to my guidance, things are effortless. Oh my gosh, life is good. Because they see what's, and then we can begin to see what's going on with us. Like sometimes there's attachment to having certain outcomes or doing certain things, or like you said, is it even in my best and highest interest to even go out today? What's the impulse or the signal that's making us want to leave the house? Is it divine, or is it something else, an advertisement that's still broadcasting in the environment from a commercial we saw? And we don't even know where this thing's coming. We just like, I should leave the house today and I should go out and go shopping. And you end up buying something, you don't even know why you're doing it. And so check with your guidance so you don't have to be susceptible to the propaganda and the programming. This is what you got any thoughts on this, Diane? Because you over here cracking up.
Because those are things that have gone on in my mind too and in my life. Yes, it's like, do I really want to go out and go shopping? What do I need to go out for? Number one. Do I need to go get something? Yes, I need to get food. All right, where's the best place to go? Or shall I wait till farmer's market maybe on Saturday or Sunday, or, go to a farmer's market? Or shall I go to Publix or, Sprouts or whatever? And I agree with you. Sometimes there's that thought coming in that has been some kind of advertisement of some sort, or, oh, I think I might need to get this thing. And it's like, what is that? And why do I need that?
Indeed.
You know? So, totally, I have been there with many times where I either have asked and not listened, or not even asked because I had the idea, I am going to do this. And it hasn't always panned out correctly
Mm,
when I have gone that route. So I really work hard to ask and listen because I don't know everything, but I have had an issue with control as well. I want things to be a certain way. And it's like, okay, but it's okay if it's little bit different too. The guidance will make it even better. I think that's something too that I don't always think about. It's even better. There's
yeah.
even better options than what you're thinking. And I'm like,
Yes.
yes, okay, let's go to that even better.
Yes. To build on that, again, it's so important to understand who and what we are, and that our guidance is us. It's part of us. It's an extension of us, and it wants the greatest and best thing for us. And if we can accept and have some humility that we've been so conditioned, that even our conditioning has been conditioned, that we have guttural impulses that are rooted in a lie, rooted in addiction, rooted in like, oh, I just want this thing because I want it, or I've seen somebody have it and I want what they got, or whatever it looks like, right? Like there's sometimes we do things and we don't even know why. Like our guidance, when we connect, again, think about like what we are, right? The light column. And when we're connecting with the higher dimensional aspects of ourselves, you start getting into that, and these upper chakras, that throat, that third eye, that endocrine system, the crown, we start connecting with the divine will, the parts of us that knows, right? Instead of just being stuck in the root, the sacral, the solar plexus, which have their purpose. This is not to demonize it, because in the root chakra, we are seeing, look, root chakra got value. Root chakra is helping everything. But my point is that, these centers, the lower centers, have been hijacked by anti-life forces on the earth plane. So, it's important that we fortify this and then allow the insight from the higher guidance or the divine will, which would come by way of asking, is it in my best and highest interest? Is this right and correct for me? Right? Because what's right and correct is going to make you happy. It's going to be satisfying, not just this quick little, I need this thing right now. I need to go to the store and go get it, or I need to make this phone call, or I need to go out with these people on the weekend and do this thing or make this purchase. No, there's something else that's driving us, and it's not rooted in truth. And the sooner we accept that this is something that's at play, I think the more we can, or the quicker we can move ourselves into having experiences that result in more satisfaction and really success. Because, like you said, Diane, like, listening to your guidance, your outcomes have been very successful. Like when to go, in terms of timing, like timing almost seems perfect. I'm sure it's in the most basic of ways, like, oh, there's no traffic. I'm glad I went now, instead of like the guttural impulse of, let me just leave when I felt like it, which may not have been right and correct, right? What is that feeling, right? So resistance, right? Like resistance to the guidance. And I think also resistance to clearing in general. I wrote about this in some notes that I have I plan on doing a video about it, but why is it that we resist clearing? And I reflected on my own personal experience, because I've been doing this for well over a decade of engaged with the energy hygiene lifestyle. And I've had a lot of low moments of not wanting to clear. And through examining what is that, and so when you see like, oh man, there's something that wants to stay with you, that darkness, that interference, it wants to stay. But then there's also some part of you that's like, yeah, I don't want you to leave. I'm cool with you being here. I'm okay with the addiction. I'm okay with this toxic behavior, or maybe it's a relationship, maybe it's something you're eating, right? That's keeping us in a low state that does not inspire clearing. So some part of us is actually holding hands with the darkness and doesn't want to let it go. That's what I've seen. At the end of the day, it's really us, what we're giving consent to and what we don't give consent to. And so we have to be real with ourselves. Do I want to let this go, or am I still looking to do the cha-cha-cha with darkness. And it's okay. I think I learned this from Laota. It's best that you're congruent. Because some people are often torn into two different places. It's like, I know I should be clearing, but I won't. And it's like you're being stretched and you pop. It doesn't feel good. If you're gonna be dirty, be dirty. Be congruent in your dirtness. I'm not saying you should be dirty, but congruence, because it hurts more when you know what the truth is and you won't do it. It hurts so much more. And there is like a karmic repercussion for having the knowledge and not stepping into it. So what are your thoughts on this, Diane? Especially from your own experience of having any type of personal resistance to clearing.
Part of it is to, it's like it's always been done this way. I've
Mm,
always done this. I've always done that. So that's resistance also. I want to
yeah,
clear this up so that I'm not always doing it that way. I want to do a new way, but sometimes, as you said, we're still holding on to that darkness that's within us. And I've had quite a few things where I've had that incongruency where I want to do this, but oh, but I don't. And it's like that is so um, it's so detrimental, as you said, about being congruent either way, whatever way you
yeah,
pick. And I'm looking to pick the congruent new way of what I now know, because a lot of times it's hard to let go of, oh, I've always done it this way. This is the only way I know. That's our reference point a lot of times is the past. And
yeah,
it's like, but that doesn't mean that's the only way. I've had a lot of situations where I'm either way over here or way over here, the pendulum, and it's like I need to bring the pendulum in the middle and say, let's get a new way. Let's come away from this old resistance. Let's move away and move. We don't have to go drastic. We can go a little bit. And just even that little bit gets you out of that thinking about this is the old way. As you step out of it, you say, "Oh, look at that. Look at that. I got," and also to take responsibility and um, reward yourself for moving into that new way. I think that's important too to see the effects of the new way and that we've gotten out of that resistance.
yeah. It's bringing to mind acknowledging the victories,
Hmm.
seeing the wins. What was where's the glory within this making this change? And this is man, this aspect of the conversation is so deep because it makes me think about a saying that Lao has, and I'm going to paraphrase it because I don't remember the exact saying, but it's something about like humans don't really know what we want. We just know what we're familiar with. It's something along those lines. It's just the familiarity of what is, and there is this weird inherent fear of change. Anything that's different, we're like, oh, I don't know, because I don't know what's going to happen, so I'll rather stick with what I'm familiar with, and I'm comfortable with that because I know what to expect, you know? And, it's even to our detriment, even relationships of abuse, circumstances like that. It's familiar. We know that they're going to yell at us and we're going to break up the makeup and, whatever it is. But we have to change because that's, again, right? That's the mechanics, flow, shift, change, and anytime we're going against that, it's just suffering. It hurts, and so one of the last things that I'd like to touch on, and because we're talking about congruence, congruence is one of those things that really helps us operate in a space where there's less to clear because you become clear. Your congruency, you show up congruent, like it informs everything. It's an interesting idea, and just in respect to time, I don't want to go too deep into it, but did you have any thoughts on that at all?
I agree with the congruence. When you are congruent and you're clearing, it lasts longer. It doesn't have to be as focused as often. So, yes, I agree
Yeah.
with that. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's even congruency in our own individual experience.
Mhm.
It's, for example, it's easier to hold your boundaries when you're congruent. Uh, your bounce back from so-called negative experiences quicker. Uh, Problems or potential issues can get addressed much sooner than later, when you're more congruent internally. I mean, there's just so many different benefits, but even the idea of like high energy hygiene in and of itself, like when you're congruent with energy hygiene, it's more of a lifestyle than just this emergency type of 911. I got to clear. No, I'm congruent with energy hygiene, so it's just part of my life. And so I'm regularly clearing, which keeps down, like, if you think about when you're not regularly clearing, it's inevitable that accumulation will occur. And then you're gonna have a bigger mountain, and that way how that interference is gonna show up in the material world is 'cause it's gonna be a lot more to deal with. So congruency helps in so many different ways, but I think even most notably, the congruency, it holds the vibrational integrity of the clearing, because what we do is no small thing. Clearing remote, non-local, whether it's clearing a house that's down the block or clearing in other states or out of the country, it's our congruence of our lifestyle and upholding the tenets of the sun that it holds the clearing. We've seen people, and it probably happened to you. I know it happened to me, where you clear. You just said it earlier. You clear and you're incongruent, then your clearing collapses. It does not. The integrity does not hold. But you clear. Next thing you know, people in the neighborhood start getting rid of trash. So it's a powerful thing where again it goes back to the value. So again, Diane, it's been such a wonderful evening to discuss these things with you. I also want to know if anyone in the chat has any questions, any topics they want us to discuss regarding property clearing. Throw it in the chat. We can revisit it at another time. But Lao Tzu has our upcoming sun calibration class for anybody who wants to learn how to get answers and information. This is one of the first things to understand, or actually, this is the one class that opens up all the advanced classes, because you still require other prerequisites for property clearing. But let's say you want to learn the entry gateway to soul clearing, which is soul translation. All you need to do is learn how to get yes and no information from your body, and then Lao Tzu will assist with creating a bridge to connect with higher levels of guidance. But getting your yes and no's is the gateway. So she has her class coming up next month, August. It's the second, third, and fourth week. It's a 3-day class, and it's an hour and a half each day. There's even tutors available as well, because you might likely need it, because you're learning how to live more in the truth. You're learning how to honor and respect your body in ways that we were not raised this way. So it is a thing. But these are things that are available for you. And again, sun calibration is the prerequisite for property clearing for anyone who wants to learn. And if you want a property clearing, you can sign up. Myself, Diane, clearly we clear properties. We're about this life. We are willing to be of service to you, to assist you. And again, also helping you understand how to keep yourself clear, because here at Of the Sun, it's not just about doing this for you. We want to put you back in the position of sovereignty where you can do this for yourself. That's literally what you were explaining earlier, Diane, that how important it is to do for self. You had any other thoughts before we close out?
Mm. This was wonderful. Thank you, Tarvars, for bringing forward all of those wonderful ideas and touching on all the parts of property clearing and how it also reflects and is incorporated in just our regular energy hygiene for ourselves. It's all connected. We're all
All
connected.
connected.
So
Beautiful. Hey,
thank
well,
you.
Diane, I got ammunition all over the floor, on the countertop. I'm over here still in the chamber. I'm like, oh my gosh. There are so
That'll
many
be
things you said
another,
that I wanted to comment on.
yes, that'll be another time. We'll be bringing
Yes.
forward all kinds of information because it's so helpful for people to understand. A lot of people maybe don't understand what quantum light property clearing is, or
Mhm.
even the energy hygiene aspect of our lives that we need to be involved in as our lifestyle. So,
But that's why we're here.
yep.
We are going to help you understand.
Mhm.
You're gonna understand. You're gonna see the value. But don't take our word for it. There's some free practices on the website. Go to the Of the Sun website under the meditation, the practice, evolutionary practices. There's free energy hygiene practices on there. You can start today. You can start right now. You can start tonight. We have night practices to just start that process with learning to clear yourself. And if you're looking to work with us, you can book a discovery call. It's complimentary. Guess who you'll speak with? You'll speak with me, and we'll talk about your path. If you have any questions about what you need assistance with in your life in terms of growth and evolution, and which path to take, because there's so many different avenues to take with Of the Sun, with classes or energy clearing protocols. So, you want to take us home, Diane? Wrap us up.
All righty. Yes, thank you so much, and thank you, everybody, for joining tonight. Thank you for your comments, and we hope to see you next time. And also check out our previous Quantum Light Property Clearing Chronicles. There is a playlist that shows all of them together, so check them all out for we've had lots of fun
Yeah,
discussions
yeah,
previously to today, as
yeah. The
they
whole
all are.
gang was there.
Yes. So, all righty. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you, Tarvars and Lakesh
A pleasure.
Veritas, with
We'll catch you,
honor,
Veritas.
respect, and gratitude, integrity, discipline, and action.